Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am the host. And as joining me as always is my guy Tyler. Tyler, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Fantastic. Boy, I like when the Chargers win. I love when the Chargers win. It is so much better, and it's especially sweet when it's on primetime. And the whole panel of media members picks the Chargers to lose. Oops. Didn't work out, did it?
Yeah, it certainly did not. The national narratives are fun today. Suddenly, the Jets' defense is really bad, and Justin Herbert should have thrown for 300 yards, I guess, last night.
Sure.
Certainly had a lot of fun watching that game. We'll talk about a lot of it today. The Chargers are officially at the halfway point of their season, so we'll have some bigger picture conversations as well today. Should be a fun show, as always, presented by the Chargers Podcast Network. Tyler and I are fans of the team first and foremost, who have been given this platform that we are very grateful for, but the opinions that we share on this show are just that. They're our opinions, not the opinions of the Chargers organization. Yeah, we're excited to dive in today. So we'll start with our truth segment, as we always do. We'll hand out some game balls today, and then we wanted to kind of zoom out and look at some bigger picture stuff today, as the Chargers are officially back in the playoff hunt. So, Tyler, we'll start with you here. What is your biggest truth or takeaway from the game against the New York Jets last night?
Yeah, the truth for me is this. Derius Davis won the game for the Chargers with that touchdown. And literally, because of the 7 points they got, was all they needed. But that touchdown was just such a gift for the offense and the defense. You know, you and I figured the Chargers would need 2 touchdowns, maybe 17 points to win this game. You get to 17, you're probably winning. And again, they only needed 7, but he figured, okay, going into the game, 17 is what you need. And then Derius Davis just gave them 7. And it just felt like from there, the offense and the defense, you could just feel that the pressure was just off, especially on the offense. They didn't have to force things. They didn't have to, Herbert did not have to be a hero. He did not have to throw multiple interceptions, trying to push the ball down the field, and they had to score. No, that wasn't the case. And the defense, it was like handing your kid $100 in a Chuck E. Cheese and just saying, hey, go for it, Joey, have fun. And they did. The defense, we'll talk about the defense, I'm sure, got to just pin their ears back and go have fun. And it wasn't just that they executed well. It's that you could tell they were playing faster and free and smart and physical. And you could just tell the defense was playing with house money. So the pressure was immediately off the offense to have to score all 17. And the defense, the Jets officially, from a minute and 45 seconds into the game, had to start playing catch up. And they knew that they had to score. And so the defense just got to go, great, thanks. Joey Bosa's healthy. We've got Tuli, we've got Mack, we've got Fox. Here we go. And everybody pitched in to the tune of, I almost broke my neck and fell out of my chair looking at my screen again when I saw the stats for them. 40 pressures and 8 sacks. I didn't think that was possible, but Derius Davis and getting the Chargers ahead and forcing the Jets to have to play catch up and the defense to play free made it possible. So Derius Davis both literally won the game for the Chargers with the 7 points, but also I don't think this score would have been as big of a difference, the most the Jets have lost by all season, if they don't have that punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah, I'll get to some of the defensive stuff here in a second, but Derius Davis, it wasn't just the touchdown, it was also the punt return right before the end of the first half. I think it was a 14, 15-yard return that gave the Chargers a really nice head start to that last 30-second drive, that Brandon Staley pointed out, gave them some real momentum heading into the locker room. They felt really great about where they were at. And he's becoming a legitimate weapon on special teams. He's not getting a ton of kick return opportunities. I think it's only 2 kick returns that he's been able to bring out so far. Obviously, the rule change has certainly played an impact there. But he's one of the best punt returners in the league right now. A guy that is consistently a threat to take the ball to the house, consistently a 12, 13-yard return kind of guy, as long as he has the kind of blocking that he needs. He actually said after the game that he felt bad because he felt like he could have had more touchdowns before last night. He felt like he owed his blockers a couple other touchdowns based off of the previous looks that he's been receiving. So, he's a guy that is just constantly looking to take the plays back to the house. He's constantly looking for ways to give his team an edge. After the draft, I interviewed a beat reporter from TCU, and he said, looking back at Derius Davis's career in college, it always seemed like his best punt returns were when the team really needed them the most. Like, team really needs a spark. The offense is really struggling, and Derius Davis just answers with a great punt return. And I think we've seen some of that so far in his career, and certainly on Monday night against the New York Jets. Just a real X factor in the return game. Gave the Chargers an instantly, like you highlighted, and then it also set up a super important field goal drive at the end of the first half. So Ryan Ficken and this special teams unit have really been fantastic. And, a lot of people were kind of scratching their head a little bit at taking a returner in the fourth round. And nights like Monday night are exactly why you make that decision.
Yeah, they crushed that pick. Telesco, Kellen Moore, Ryan Ficken, like them in particular with offense, special teams, and the selection crushed it. And you can only justify taking a player like that so early with the touches on offense and with, of course, being great on special teams. And not only do you have an explosive returner, you also have a guy who's pretty explosive on offense, too. Didn't get to see that on Monday night, but we have seen that throughout the season. So it's just been a great pick. And look, Ryan Ficken, primetime Ficken is becoming like a thing now for this team because, Broncos last year, that big primetime game, that was a big special teams game. The Cowboys against the Cowboys, they forced that fumble. The Chargers didn't win that game, but that was huge for the team. And then, of course, last night on Monday Night Football, Derius Davis takes it to the house. Cameron Dicker kicks a 55-yarder. Like, primetime Ficken in special teams is becoming a thing now. And I just don't remember. I know this isn't really my truth here that I'm talking about, but by extension, I don't remember the last time a Chargers phase of football was this maxed out. And I don't even just mean like the players are good and the special teams is good. Typically with the Chargers, let's say like Michael Badgley's good years recently, he was great, but they'd give up kick returns, punts were blocked, et cetera, et cetera. There are always issues. Maybe one or two guys were really good, but not the whole unit. Everybody's maxed out in this special teams unit, from the guys who you drafted late to the guys you signed on special teams a few weeks ago, your linebackers, your corners, your returners. Cameron Dicker now looks like the next great NFL kicker for the Chargers and really around the NFL. Ryan Ficken is just awesome. And I feel like the Chargers are close to losing him at some point to a head coaching, maybe even job, because, again, I don't recall the last time a special teams unit or even a phase of football for the Chargers was this well coached. He's awesome.
Yeah, turning around the Chargers special teams unit is certainly a resume booster. Really quickly on Cameron Dicker, because I do want to mention him at least partially throughout today's show. Last night against the Jets, he hit his fourth field goal of the season from 50 yards plus. That ties the Chargers regular season record. Josh Lambo hit 4 50-yard field goals in 2015, and Nick Novak hit 4 in 2011. So Cameron Dicker has the chance to break that record, obviously, anytime the Chargers play next. And so it's just been, Dustin Hopkins has been really good for the Cleveland Browns, but it's just been a win-win situation because Cameron Dicker has been nails for the Chargers. And it's so rare. Like my wife Brooke is a new fan. Like, she started to like the Chargers because I like the Chargers, and she she's been supportive of everything. And she has been used to previous Chargers kicking issues, and now that Cameron Dicker's on the team, she had no doubt that he was going to go out there and hit that 55-yard. And Cameron Dicker is just so clutch. He is also a legitimate weapon on special teams. The Chargers have one of the best punt returners in the league right now. They have arguably one of the best kickers in the league right now, and one of the best special teams coaches in the league. So it's been a winning edge for the Chargers, and we've seen that time and time again. Like you mentioned, primetime Ficken is really coming out. So it was great to see on Monday Night Football against the Jets.
Yeah, a ton of fun. As I mentioned before the season, my health, my blood pressure depends on Cameron Dicker. And so thank you, Cameron Dicker, for doing it for all of us Chargers fans and just keeping me alive throughout the season. Steven, what is your truth after watching the film? Could it be about the defense?
Yes, it's about these Chargers edge rushers, man. This is the best trio of edge rushers in Chargers history, and I mean, like, obviously they've had Junior Seau, they've obviously had Melvin Ingram around here, and Sean Merriman, but like a collective trio, we have not seen a trio like this in Chargers history, in my opinion. Granted, I was born in 1994, so I don't really remember watching Junior Seau, but that's just my opinion. Right now, the Chargers are the only team in the league with at least 3 edge rushers who have at least 10 run stops. Brandon Staley has highlighted run defense as a legitimately key turnaround, and the edge rushers being kind of the catalyst for that. And I think we see that on a week-to-week basis with the way that these 3 individuals specifically are defending the run. They're getting some key contributions against the run from other players for sure, but the 3 edge rushers are the absolute driving force of how the Chargers have turned around their run defense. We highlighted this a couple weeks ago. Last season, they averaged 144 yards allowed on the ground. This year, that's at 89.8. And particularly in the last 3 games, it's at 68 yards. And the edge rushers are absolutely the key there. You mentioned the 40 pressures. Obviously not all on the edge rushers, but that amount of pressures was the Chargers record in the PFF era. The previous high heading into Monday Night Football for the team was 31 pressures, which they had a few times, most notably, I think, against the Houston Texans back in week 3 of the 2019 season. That was obviously Joey, Melvin Ingram, and Uchenna Nwosu at their kind of peak of their power, so to speak. But 40 total pressures is 9 more than the previous record, again, in the PFF era. So these Chargers edge rushers are setting the tone for what this defense can become. They are dominating people out there. And again, Joey Bosa looks as good as he ever has, in my opinion. I think going back to the 2020 season is really the last time I saw Joey Bosa rush with this kind of speed to power on a consistent basis, where he is constantly putting offensive tackles in the lap of the quarterback. I don't think we've seen that in quite some time. Khalil Mack is having kind of a resurgence. You know, he looks fresh. He looks healthy. He looks explosive. I tweeted this out, but they had that sequence in the first half, or the start of the second half, excuse me. The Jets go all the way down to about the 15-yard line. The Jets ran a max protect situation with 2 tight ends in to try and block Khalil. Double teams across the rest of the way. Tuli beat a double team on one side. Khalil beat a double team on the other side, and they met at the quarterback. On the next play, Joey Bosa just bull rushes Billy Turner, puts him in Zach Wilson's lap, and effectively ends that drive. The Jets kicked a field goal. But the Chargers edge rushers are playing at such a high level right now. They're feeding off of each other. The Chargers social media team obviously pointed out that Joey and Tuli are doing each other's celebrations, and now it's combined. It's not just Tuli throwing up the T or Joey doing the shrug. They both do both of them at the same time. Excuse me as I hit my mic there. I'm all fired up now. But this Chargers edge rusher group, man, it's fantastic. They're playing so well. You can try and discredit the opponents, but these are NFL offensive tackles. Mekhi Becton is no slouch. Billy Turner has played in the NFL for a very long time. Darnell Wright last week against the Bears, fantastic young rookie offensive tackle. So it's not like these edge rushers are having the easy matchups. The edge rushers are out here dominating and looking fresh, spry. I love the rotation right now. I just am so impressed with the way that these 3 individuals are playing, and it is legitimately the catalyst of how the Chargers are playing defense right now, and it's just been a treat to watch over the last few weeks.
The chemistry and the energy, I think, is almost bigger than anything else besides anything else. Like, the way that they feed off each other is exciting. I mean, it is entertaining, if nothing else, for Chargers fans, just to see how excited Joey Bosa is to be out there playing football, because he's been through a lot, you know, and it hasn't always been fun, you know, with the teams that he's been on. I think he would hope for maybe more wins or being a part of more success, as all NFL players would. But then you have the injuries, and you come back this season, you're injured again, you know, and everyone's saying you should cut you, trade you, whatever. You're not living up to expectations of the contract. Just to see him healthy again and having fun again is awesome. Like, Joey is awesome when he's healthy, and to see him get back out there, feed off of Tuli, them feed off each other, is wonderful to see. And Tuli, I really think, has been the glue that has held everything together, because they've been good with Tuli and Joey or Tuli and Mack or whatever, but guys have been hurt or things haven't been working. And Tuli's always just been there to kind of fill in the gaps of wherever anything else isn't working out for the Chargers. Like, when in doubt, Tuli will do something. Tuli will come up with the play. And now everybody's healthy. Everyone's feeding off of each other. Everyone's performing excellent so far. And again, I don't really care that, yes, I expected the Chargers defensive line to have a really good game. Even if you thought they'd have a really good game and you're discounting the Jets and you're saying that their players on offense or their offensive line isn't great, nobody predicted 40 pressures. And I know that that's not just the edge group, but still, like, these guys were dominating. It's awesome to see. And again, like Tuli, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they have right now a championship caliber rush. Will the rest of the defense hold? I'm not sure. Will the whole team be a championship caliber team? I'm not sure. But that is a kind of rush. That is a kind of trio that can get you into the postseason and win games. And I really wish we had seen the Chiefs game and the Cowboys game with all three of these guys officially fully healthy, because I think that we've seen the difference the last 2 weeks. It's now up to them next week against the Lions to really prove that this rush is actually truly legit and here to stay.
Yeah, and you have a much more difficult matchup this week for sure. The Lions are an absolute unit. You have Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker as the offensive tackles. Frank Ragnow potentially coming back for that team on Sunday, but we'll get to that in a little bit, I suppose. But these three players, man, it's just like they feed off of each other. They spark the team, and when they're all healthy and out there, you can just really create mismatches because, yes, the Lions and these other teams have good offensive tackles, but the way that Tuli is able to give them flexibility, Joey can kick inside, Khalil will kick inside, Morgan Fox is having a great season as well. They're just able to isolate mismatches, and frankly, like, they don't really need to blitz anymore. Like last season, the blitz packages were, I think, the best part of the defense last year, at least from a schematic standpoint. Now, like, you don't even have to blitz. You can just win with 4 on third downs. Daniel Popper pointed this out. The trio of edge rushers have been on the field. Shoot, I should have had this up. That's my mistake. But right now, the trio of edge rushers, when they're on the field, have a success rate, a sack rate of 25%, which is incredible. It's an insane statistic to look at that. Eric Smith of the Chargers has also pointed out that the Chargers lead the league in sacks on third down. You've talked about a lot from like the fan perspective of how deflating things can be, when you just don't have that kind of confidence. But now if the Chargers get into a third and long situation, my expectation is that the pass rush is going to get home and affect things. And it's just, it's changed how I've viewed this defense. And I think it's changed how they have viewed this defense. I think the celebration committee has been fantastic to see, but everything to me stems from this defensive line. And one other statistic really quickly before we move on to the next truth here. Tuli Tuipulotu is up to 14 run stops on the season, which is tied for 5th most in the league among edge rushers. Joey Bosa, who talked a lot this offseason about how important it was for him to put on weight and get back to where he feels comfortable. He currently has the highest run stop percentage in the league at 13.7% of any edge rusher in the league. So those two are getting to the football at a really high rate. Khalil Mack is doing some crazy things in terms of setting the edge. He's not far behind them. Like this trio of edge rushers is legitimately dominating the run right now. And then 40 pressures, man, like you mentioned, we literally have never seen the Chargers do that at that kind of rate. So it's just, it really put it into perspective what they did. And then I went back and watched the tape, and it was like they were meeting at Zach Wilson like every other play. It felt like they just were dominant on Monday night at a historic level.
Yeah, 40 pressures on 49 passing attempts from Zach Wilson that's a rough night, man. I almost feel bad. I almost feel bad. But it's great that you point out the run defense as well, and I'm glad that when we talk about Tuli or any of these guys, you're consistently bringing up the run defense, because that is setting up what they're able to do on third down. You don't get to have 40 pressures and 8 sacks if you're not great on first down, if you're not great against the run. And their ability to do that, keep them to 1 yard gains, 1 yard losses, whatever, is great. And that sets up your ability to rush the passer. Zach Wilson and the Jets lost more yards on sacks than Breece Hall gained in rushing yards, which just speaks to both things there. They stopped the run and they rushed the passer. And those two things right there is why they won so big last night.
Yeah, so, we'll see about the pass rush, but I'm pretty confident that this team can stop the run. Lamar Jackson is a different beast. That might be a tough situation, but even this week against the Lions, like I have a lot of confidence in this front being able to stop the run. Also, really quickly, Otito Ogbonia, fantastic on Monday Night Football. His first game back coming from that injury, consistently eating up double teams, shedding blockers. I was incredibly impressed with the way Otito played. They're getting some really high level football from Nick Williams, Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. Like these guys are really defending the run at a high level. It's just the edge rushers are like insanely dominant, and everybody else is kind of playing behind them. But the Chargers run defense is legitimately good in my opinion. And I think we'll see that in a big way against teams like the Lions who really want to establish the run.
That's awesome from Otito. I didn't get to watch the film, but just watching the game, you go, whoa, how much is this guy going to play? Then you watch him and it's like, what the heck? Where did this come from? He had 4 pressures last season. He had 4 pressures last night in his return from a pretty gruesome injury. So to see that is great. Again, this rotation is just fantastic. Big credit to Gift Smith. Jay Rodgers is in charge of, he's the run game coordinator, but Gift Smith is in charge of the rush plan. So whatever he's doing, it's working.
Yeah, 100% shout out to those coaches for sure. All right, the last thing I want to discuss here in terms of the truth segment, looking back at kind of the numbers, watching some of this film, and looking at the way this Chargers offense is struggling, I do kind of want to discuss this because none of us were expecting a huge output on offense. This Jets defense is insanely talented, especially against the pass. Arjun Menon, who was on the show last week, pointed out that the pass rush pressured Justin Herbert around 55% of his dropbacks, and they perfectly covered the Chargers receivers on around 50% of their dropbacks as well. So the Jets defense is insane, and so I'm not super surprised that the offense struggled, but I think it's really time that Kellen Moore leans back into the run game as a solution here. This is an offense that is not set up how they were supposed to be set up. Obviously, Mike Williams is injured. Josh Palmer is now injured. Gerald Everett is a little bit banged up here and there. The run game has to be the answer, and I know that it hasn't been pretty at times. I actually thought they were able to run the football decently well last night. Austin Eckler had his best game on the ground of the season outside of week 1, obviously. Joshua Kelly only getting 3 carries is an issue to me that needs to be corrected. But this was a game where I think you needed to do a much better job of protecting Justin Herbert and protecting your defense and controlling the clock. And so, this was a game that I was expecting Kellen Moore to kind of lean into the run game a little bit more, and we didn't see that happen. That it needs to happen. Like, you have to be able to run the football going forward. And, they're going to get into some potentially like cold weather situations here in the next few months. They have to get this figured out. The Lions are pretty similar about the Jets, kind of middle of the road in terms of the run defense. The Packers, the week after that, are terrible against the run like that. These next few weeks, you have to get the run game going. Otherwise, your offense, I think, is just going to kind of be stuck in the mud again, because I don't know how many answers you have without Palmer and Mike Williams out there. You can only do so much with Keenan, and Keenan was fantastic yesterday, but the run game needs to be a much greater point of emphasis for this offensive coaching staff, or the offense, I think, is just going to kind of continue to be stuck in mud a little bit.
I feel like the play of the tackles, and of course, in particular, Rashawn Slater, has really surprised the team. I think there's an aspect of going into the season assuming that you're good there. And frankly, the whole offense line would be better than it currently has been. And I just think in particular with Rashawn Slater last night, you're just surprised by how things have kind of gone. And so at some point, you kind of had hoped during the bye, but it hasn't quite happened. But you'd hope at the middle point of the season and heading into some very difficult games that they can self-scout a bit and say, okay, like, we got to reevaluate what we're doing. We had a plan going into the year. It was a good plan. Week 1 was great. And then people got hurt and things changed. Okay, let's reevaluate after the bye. Okay, things after the bye, we've seen what we liked that is good. We've seen what we tried that didn't work out so well. So what can we lean into? And yeah, I was definitely surprised that Joshua Kelly didn't get more touches. If it's an issue of, he gets 4 carries for 6 yards every game, and that's why you don't want to give him more touches, I understand. But statistically, going into this game, and I'm sure it's pretty close now, I mean, he was ahead of Austin Eckler in yards per attempt, yards after contact per attempt, rushing yards over expected per attempt, avoiding negative rushing plays, success rate, EPA per rush. Anywhere you looked as a runner, Joshua Kelly was better. And does that mean that he's elite? Does that mean that he's great? No. But he can just give you a bit more. And you got to find a way to avoid these 3rd and longs, because the Chargers had no answer. I can't think of a single 3rd and long outside of maybe the one that was the thrown to Keenan, that great play, but that might have been a 3rd and short. I couldn't think of a 3rd and long that didn't end up in Herbert getting hit or sacked. I mean, it was pretty rough. They had no answer. So you got to find a way. Eckler can be involved as a receiver when he catches the football. But Joshua Kelly, even if all he does is give you 3.5 yards or 4 yards, and on Monday he gave you 6 yards a carry, that's way better. You can survive elite pass rushes if you can just get to 2nd and 6, but you can't live in 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. In the same way we discussed how great the run defense was for the Chargers and how that set up their rush, you got to set your offense up for a bit more success. So either that's an extension of the run game, like they sort of were doing at the beginning of the year with screens or something a bit different there, or just leaning into the run game. They got to find a way to stay ahead, because you can't go face Baltimore in a game that you basically need to win to establish yourself in the AFC. You can't go face Baltimore and just say, yeah, we're going to, this is all we got. You got to lean into the run. You got to find some different ways to make it work. And so far it's not. Do you feel, I don't think you watched the offense today, if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't watched the offense yet, no.
Do you at least feel that the offensive line at this point is actually better suited to be run blocking, or do you feel that their strength is pass pro?
I think it's run blocking. I think the offensive line run blocking hasn't been amazing, but it hasn't been an issue. I've been on the record that the tight end blocking has been a much greater issue. I thought watching the broadcast that Nick Van Eck was a solid contribution there. I'll see what the film says there, but I think the offensive line is still struggling with some of the aspects of playing against stunts in games. And, watching the broadcast, the Jets would do this thing where they would essentially do a stunt or a game on one side, and then they would kind of like fake one on the other side, and then end up dropping one to kind of spy Herbert a little bit, which is something that the Chiefs did a little bit, and the Chiefs really confused the Chargers with that kind of look. In Rashawn Slater, I don't know if there's an ankle injury still there or what, but again, the Jets defensive line is insane, but there were some instant wins from the Jets defensive line against both of these offensive tackles, which, whatever you think of Trey Pipkins, to me, I was surprised to see that live. So it's just, I think establishing the run helps everybody here. It helps the offensive line. It takes pressure off of Herbert. It protects Herbert. It takes pressure off of the receivers. And in these two games, these are the perfect kind of games where you want to workshop the run game, because you're in such a positive game script. So, I don't want to seem like overly negative, obviously, but, we have to be real here on this show. And the Chargers offense did enough, but I think they did leave some meat on the bone last night and against the Bears as well.
Yeah, it's what changes them from being maybe even just a okay offense or a good offense to being great. And so you have to discuss it. There's always room for improvement. Have to address it, have to talk about it. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, let's get to our game balls of the week here. Who is your choice coming off of the victory from Monday Night Football?
Could go many directions, but how about the guy who has 10,007 yards in his career? Please don't get a screen and lose 8 yards at your first reception next week, or you got to do it all over again. But no, I am truly proud. I think I speak for a lot of fans I'm proud as a fan to have watched Keenan Allen, and watched him play since his first catch against the Eagles, in the third quarter. I wrote it down. It's a game that was played 3,705 days ago. It's been a while since that rookie season. Don't ask me what I was doing. I have no idea what I was doing that long ago. Fitting, of course, that the reception was also on third down. Of course, Keenan Allen caught a third down for his first catch. He's just been the answer to every question this season. Where do we go? What do we do well? Who's the gargoyle on Masked Singer? He's been the answer to everything so far. And he just gets it done. He's been getting it done. And you don't, what better way to pass 10,000 yards than with the catch that he had. I mean, what an awesome play. One of the best catches of his career, of course, on prime time to get that milestone. And it's just really cool to see him write 10,000 on that football. I mean, what a milestone. And like you said, he's going for Antonio Gates next, and he'll get him next year. So it wasn't like the best performance from Keenan Allen on the season, but he picked up 4 first downs for this team. As an offense, they only picked up 12, and he finished the night with 8 catches for 77 yards, which was good enough, man. Good enough for a win against a very, very good corner trio.
Yeah, that was basically the offense, and like I said, the Chargers did just enough on offense to get those 3 drives. The touchdown drive, the field goal drive, and the 2-minute, 30-second drive. Basically, was all Keenan. I feel like Austin Eckler had some contributions there as well, for sure. For me, I already talked about the edge rushers. I could give a game ball to one of them. But I'm going to go with Alohi Gilman in this one. I think there's just something different about him, the way that he's able to, spark this Chargers defense. And again, he set that tone really early in that game. I was kind of convinced that they would call him for for personal roughness or whatever the penalty is called, on that first play. But it just set the tone. He strips Garrett Wilson. He recovers Khalil Mack's fumble and nearly returns it for a touchdown. The guy just has a way of finding the football, and it's incredible to watch him play alongside Derwin James. I thought that Brandon Staley had a great plan for Garrett Wilson, and a lot of that was Alohi Gilman, being able to move around and play as a cover one robber at times, play as the one double against Garrett Wilson. So credit to Brandon Staley there as well. But Alohi Gilman was kind of the key from a schematic standpoint against Garrett Wilson from what I was able to watch on tape today. And then again, he forces a turnover, he recovers another turnover, has a couple big hits. So I think Alohi Gilman deserves definitely a shout out today. So he's going to be my choice for the game ball.
I love that. And dating back to a few weeks ago when he was healthy again and playing against the Vikings, he's part of the reason they won that game. Again, forces a turnover there, should have had another one. That's a whole story about the refs. But the last 2 drives, he finishes the game for them, helps finish the game for them. Against the Bears, hits a receiver. Derwin James gets his interception. Last night, of course, big. I expected Alohi Gilman to have his quote-unquote breakout season. Unfortunately, he's been hurt a couple of games. I really didn't expect tone setting to be Alohi Gilman's thing this year. I expected good plays, good coverage, be sound, be a good running mate. But Derwin James is the guy, and Michael Davis is your best corner, and that sort of thing. And sure, but I did not expect tone setter for Alohi Gilman and game changer for Alohi Gilman, and that's all he's been. He's playing physical, and he's changing the game. And so, yeah, game ball there is wonderful. I love that.
Yeah, he was fantastic last night. He's been really solid for this team, but nights like Monday night are nights where you really see his value shine through. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and on the other side here, we're going to take a look at the big picture with the Chargers having officially passed the 8-game mark, sitting at 4-4. So we'll take that quick break, and then we'll come back on the other side and have that conversation. Hey guys, VIP ticket packages for the first ever Super Bowl in Las Vegas are now on sale, and only On Location offers all-inclusive experiences worthy of the entertainment capital of the world. Ticket packages boast an array of offerings such as premium seating to the game, epic pregame parties with headline talent, NFL legend appearances, premium drinks and fare, and much more. Visit NFLOnLocation.com or search NFL On Location today. Your football experience of a lifetime awaits only with On Location. All right, Tyler. We wanted to have kind of a zoom out conversation about this team sitting at 4-4. They're officially back in the playoff picture. The AFC is completely jumbled up. It's pretty crazy to look at. There are 13 teams that currently have at least 4 wins, including the Chargers, obviously, who sit at 4-4. So a lot of these teams are going to have their bye week coming up. Like the Chiefs and Dolphins have their bye week this week, I believe. So the Chargers, as it currently stands, sit in 10th place. They are half a game back from the 7th seed, however, as it currently stands. What are your thoughts here as it pertains to the playoff picture? Because I think there are some teams that are really starting to solidify themselves. And then there are other teams where it's just like, I don't know which version we're going to get on any given Sunday. So what are your thoughts here about this AFC playoff picture and how the Chargers fit in?
It's exactly what I was thinking looking at it. I mean, the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Jaguars, mostly because of their division too, those 3 are going to remain at the top. They're going to win. They're going to finish as division winners. At least it wouldn't surprise me if they did. And they are projected to. Chiefs 7-2, Ravens 7-2, Jaguars 6-2. Then you have, could be the Dolphins, could be the Bills. It'll be one of them, and then both of them are probably getting in, and that's kind of that. To me, the big picture and any chance for the Chargers is not the Bengals at the 7th seed. I think the Bengals are going to ascend and keep moving. Maybe not into the division win, but probably like the 5th or 6th seed. To me, it's the Browns and the Steelers. Now, the Steelers just keep winning, and it's obnoxious that they just keep finding ways to win, regardless of who's out there. I'm convinced that Mike Tomlin could field, you and me at quarterback and receiver, and you can figure out who's who. I don't know. And I think they would still find a way to win because that's Mike Tomlin. But the Browns, that team is the one I think maybe even you're referring to in terms of, I don't know what kind of, are you really a team that's a playoff contender or not? The defense is absolutely. The offense is pretty hit or miss. And unfortunately, their record isn't great at 5-3. And I don't know where they're going to keep winning because they have the Ravens next at Baltimore. Then they have the Steelers. That's a slugfest. Then you got to go at Denver. Then the Rams. Okay, fine. But then Jaguars, Bears, we've seen, fine. But then at Texans, at Houston, who are, CJ Stroud, holy cow, we just saw that. Then they got to play the Jets, and you're not scoring at all. And then you got to play the Bengals. So it's a very, very tough remaining rest of the schedule for them in terms of either opponent or just traveling to somewhere. And also that opponent is really good. So that's a tough one for them. I do think the Chargers can get to enough wins that would qualify them in most seasons to make the postseason. I just don't know that if it's enough wins to win enough tiebreakers and to officially get them in. This year, they're going to need a little bit of help and a couple more losses in front of them.
Yeah, as it currently stands, the AFC North is 4 of the 7 spots. So all 4 teams are in the playoff picture right now. They haven't really played each other very much, though. So they're gonna weed itself out, I think, a little bit. The Bengals, for what it's worth, do have the most difficult schedule left in the league, according to Tankathon and some betting schedules as well. They have to play the Chiefs still. They have to play the Ravens still. They have to play the Steelers twice, Browns, Jags, and the Minnesota Vikings. Their only real easy game that the Bengals have is the Colts, and the Colts are at least a frisky team. They're a tough out. So the Bengals, I think, are probably the best team of that conversation, that wild card conversation. But that schedule is ridiculously tough. That's a gauntlet. The Browns, like you mentioned, have a tough schedule. The Steelers actually have the 22nd easiest schedule remaining. They still play the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Packers, and the Colts. So that to me is an interesting team. And you mentioned CJ Stroud. They get to play one of the easier schedules too. They get to play the Cardinals. They have 2 games left against the Titans. They play the Broncos and the Colts. They'll have a tough time against the Jets and the Bengals and the Browns. But they don't have a super difficult schedule. So the Chargers, it really becomes a matter of the other AFC teams that you have left on your schedule and making sure that you are winning those games. So the Chargers are right in the middle of the pack from a strength of schedule standpoint, But you have some of these games against AFC teams that you absolutely have to win. Like, you definitely have to beat the Bills. You definitely have to beat the Raiders again. The Raiders are still kind of hovering around the playoff picture. I don't have a ton of confidence in this team beating the Ravens because I think the Ravens are the best team in the league right now. But those other AFC teams, you got to make sure you win and you get some of these tiebreaker advantages. And they got one on Monday night against the Jets. They have to keep doing that going forward.
Yeah, the rest of the schedule is really set up for them to, honestly, if you just look at the Vegas odds or whatever and say, when are the Chargers favored? When are they projected to win versus when are they projected to lose? It's really set up where, yeah, that looks like 9-8, right? So if I had to guess, they're projected to lose against Detroit, the Ravens, Buffalo, Kansas City. That certainly wouldn't surprise me. And I don't think it would surprise anybody if they were. And they're projected to win then against Green Bay, New England, Denver, Vegas, and then Denver again. So I think that if you just play out the games like they're sort of expected, the Chargers can go 9-8. It's like what you said, though. They need to find one more win in there against one of these AFC opponents to really make it in. You got to get a tiebreaker, and obviously you're going to need 10 wins unless something just goes crazy for the rest of the AFC. But so you're going to have to beat Kansas City. You're going to have to beat Buffalo maybe. One of those two games. Again, Baltimore, like you said, I think they are the best team. They certainly looked like it, and they have recently, and Lamar's just playing out of his mind. And that's a 2000s classic Ravens defense. So that's a heck of a team. So really those two games, if they can beat Baltimore, great. But you got to beat Buffalo, you got to beat Kansas City. But, I mean, you beat Detroit this week, and that's a game that kind of feels like a coin toss. We'll see. But you win that one, and I think you're feeling better about the rest of the season because, again, the rest of the games are games that you should win, like Green Bay, New England, Denver, Vegas, Denver. Are they going to be easy? No. You have to exercise a lot of demons to win those games. At Denver, at New England, even recently for this regime, in Vegas. Like those are rough places historically for the Chargers, either long-term or more recent. So I think they'll win those games, but like you said, they got to find one more win in there, at least.
Yeah, you have to take care of business against the teams that you should beat. For what it's worth, the Bills game is really interesting to me. Obviously you have Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is very capable of going nuclear at any moment. We've seen that time and time again. The Bills, from a success rate and from a down-to-down basis, they're one of the best offenses in the league. Josh Allen tend to have the occasional turnover as well. But that defense has had so many injuries. Nate Tice pointed this out earlier. They're actually 28th in the league from a success rate standpoint and an EPA per play standpoint since Matt Milano specifically went down with injury. So the Bills defense, which I think entered the season as like a legitimately a unit that legitimately had the chance to be a top 5 unit in the league, right now they're more of a bottom 5 unit in the league. So the Bills are going to have to shoot out the rest of their games potentially. You look at their schedule specifically. I just had it in front of me. They have the 4th most difficult schedule remaining. They still have to play the Eagles. They have to play the Dolphins again. They have to play the Cowboys. They play the Jets again. They play the Chiefs. There's not a lot of easy left on the Bills' schedule, and the way their defense is struggling, that is a team that I could see kind of working their way out of the playoff picture at some point, and the Chargers beating them would be huge. But again, Josh Allen is for my money the second best quarterback in the league and is able to go nuclear at any moment. So that's a game that I think Chargers fans should be circling as kind of that's the inflection point. That's like the game that if they win, they can get into the playoff picture and like cement their status as a playoff team, because I think they have some of these other games that they can win, and like beating the Lions would be huge. But if everything kind of goes how we think and they beat the Bills, that's when I think we'll start to see that, hey man, like this team is for real and they can really make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Bills, it's unfortunate, but every time I watch them, it's, okay, this player is out. This player went down. This player went down. And it's just unfortunately chipping away at their ability to be a stronger contender. And it feels like, especially watching them against the Bengals, like, now the Bengals are a very good team, so that's understandable, but it just feels like their momentum is starting to slip. And you can't regain that if you're turning the ball over and you're injured. I mean, those are two awful things that you can't do. Yeah. And so unfortunately, it just seems like, the Chargers just need to survive win the games they're supposed to, maybe steal one, but just survive, be healthy, keep momentum going until that game. And if you can do that, and if the Bills are trending downward and you steal that game, yeah, again, would be a huge one. And you can see it on Peacock.
Yeah, I think I will potentially be at that game, so hopefully it should be a lot of fun. Obviously, Monday night was huge. The Chargers have been able to get back into the playoff picture. You beat a really good Jets team, a defense that is just outstanding. The Chargers playoff odds have increased by like 20% after winning that game. So, again, that was a huge win on Monday Night Football. The Chargers defense was fantastic. The special teams was awesome as well. The offense still a bit of a work in progress, but I'm sure we'll see some better days ahead in the future. All right, Tyler, any other thoughts here before we head out?
Just keep winning, boys. You're doing great. Keep at it. See you next week after a win, right?
Yes, there we go. All right, guys, appreciate the support as always. Make sure like the videos, comment here on the channel, subscribe, all that good stuff. We do really appreciate it. Appreciate Greg Kim for producing, and as always, bolt up. We'll see you next time.